Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful edition of the Baseball Replay Journal. We have a real treat for you today as we have the 1908 Detroit Tigers on the road here against the 1908 Chicago White Sox. Second game of the season. This is April 15th, 1908. In yesterday's game, the first game, the White Sox defeated the Tigers in a relatively close game behind the pitching of Ed Walsh. And now let's see how this one goes. Matty McIntyre, the first hitter for the Tigers, hits a fly ball to left field, one away. Frank Smith on the mound this time around for Chicago. Up comes Germany Schaefer, strikes out. And next up is Sam Crawford. Crawford gets a base hit there to right field. And the man that you were all waiting for is up next, Ty Cobb. And I'm a little bit curious, actually, as to why I don't have Cobb hitting in the cleanup or in the first spot today, but I'll have to go back and look back at my lineups and see exactly what happened. Cobb is a little little fly ball over there to center field, and that does that. And now we go to the bottom of the first inning. Fielder Jones up, first man up for the White Sox. Little ground ball back to Wild Bill Donovan. That's one away. Next man up, Ed Hahn, who grounds out to shortstop, 2 away. And this is quick, isn't it? Doherty is hit by the pitch. Runner on first base now for the White Sox with 2 away. And that's for George Davis. It's a little fly ball to right field. You'll see that little E technically should have come up, but because the result would not have been an error in the end, we don't have to roll. Claude Rossman up for the Tigers, top of the second inning. He strikes out. Here comes Bill Coughlin. Little ground ball to first base. 2 away, just like that. And up comes the catcher, Schmidt. And Schmidt his little pop fly over to the third baseman, and that does it for the Tigers in the top of the second. Very, very quiet so far. Freddie Parent up next and gets on base, and an error. That's an error there to Germany Schaefer at second. And that brings up Jiggs Donahue, and it's bunting time. It may be early. It may only be the bottom of the second inning, but it's time to bunt. And Donovan ends up losing. Donahue walks him. And here comes Tannehill, and you better believe it's time to bunt now. Number 7 hitter coming up here for the White Sox. And he misses on his 2 attempts to bunt. They're going to let him swing away now, and he hits the 27, which is the double play, third to second, second to first. Parent moves over with 2 outs, and Billy Sullivan coming up to bat. And Sullivan hits a little fly ball to right field, and that does it. And on we go to the top of the third inning. That is a 3. Apologies. And we'll see what happens here with Red Downs at the plate. It's a fly ball to center field, and that's 1 away. Up next is Wild Bill Donovan. His little pop fly to third base, and that's the second out of the inning. And Matty McIntyre next. And he hits a little pop fly to short, and that does it. Frank Smith now, the pitcher, up for Chicago. He strikes out. There's no surprise there. Next up, Fielder Jones, and he works a walk off of Donovan, and here comes Ed Hahn, and it's hit and run time, hit and run o'clock for Chicago. There's a little ground ball to second base, a nice hit and run ground ball, gets out of the double play, 2 outs now for Patsy Doherty, and he hits a little ground ball to first base, and that does it. No hit so far for the White Sox, no runs for either team. Germany Schaefer, though, gets a hold of one, and let's see how far this one goes. He ends up with a double as that one goes back to right center field. Now Sam Crawford, Schaefer, fast runner on second base. Crawford hits a little fly ball to left field, doesn't even advance the runner. And the man you've all been waiting for, Ty Cobb, hitting 200 so far in the season. And he gets a double. That scores Schaefer, 1-0 Tigers. You knew that Cobb was going to... Ty Cobb was always going to come and let us know about his presence here on camera. He knows that we're recording. Claude Rossman moves Cobb over to third base, a little ground ball to the third baseman. And up next is Coughlin, gets a little fly ball to left field, apologies, and that does that. George Davis now, little bouncer back to the pitcher, 1 away here in the bottom of the 4th inning. Freddie Parent, and that breaks the spell. Base hit for Parent, and that brings up Donahue. Now the White Sox down by a run in the early going. And we were bunting with Donahue, and that bunt ends up going to third base, who gets the out at second. Fielder's choice now is the ruling on that one. Tannehill up now with the runner on first base instead of runner on second base like the White Sox wanted. And Tannehill is going to ground that one over to second base, and that does it. And up now is Bosch Schmidt. So, the White Sox of this era were really the Hitless Wonders, as they were known as. You think of that as Schmidt grounds over to first base, one away. You think of that 1906 team that won the World Series as the Hitless Wonders. But the truth is that the White Sox, little ground ball to third base for downs, 2 away. The White Sox for this entire early era had teams that just simply did not have many base hits and relied heavily on small ball and on bunting and on some of those fundamentals. That goes back even before the founding of the American League as a so-called major league. If you read up on the 1900 Chicago White Sox, you'll see the same thing. 1900 Chicago White Stockings, as Donovan strikes out, go to the bottom of the 5th inning. The 1900 Chicago White Stockings were actually a very, very popular team in Chicago. Billy Sullivan hits a little fly ball to left field, and that's one away. It's the sort of thing that gets kind of lost in the story of Ban Johnson and the American League in the early days of the American League. Apologies. Frank Smith, the pitcher, was up next, and there's a little error on the first baseman, Rossman, and he manages to get on for the White Sox. So in the early days of the American League, the thing is that the American League wanted to stop being the Western League and be more of a major league. Ban Johnson talked with the powers that were, and Fielder Jones hits a little ground ball to third base, put out a second, 2 away now for the White Sox. Powers that were in charge in Chicago allowed Ban Johnson to put a minor league team in Chicago to compete with their own team. There's a base hit by Ed Hahn, runners in first and third. White Sox now look like they have something going and might be able to score here with Patsy Dougherty back up. And there's a little strikeout by Dougherty, and that does that up to the top of the 6th inning. So for whatever reason, the owners of the team then known as the Chicago Orphans, we just call them the Chicago National League Club, allowed the White Sox to come in, may have got some sort of kickback as a result of it. And there's a fly ball by McIntyre for one away. That, though, is the thing that allowed the American League to become a major league. That has been forgotten by most historians. Schaefer with the second out of the inning fly ball to left. And you hear it here first. I bet you that most of you didn't know that at all. A little ground ball to first base, and that does it for the Tigers, top of the 6th. On we go to the White Sox in the bottom of the 6th. I'm going to write about that one of these days. Very, very interesting stuff to find that most people don't look at that era in baseball history closely. Ball there to George Davis. Davis winds up walking. Donovan loses him, and here comes Freddie Parent. And we're going to hit and run, just sort of see what happens. And it's a good hit and run ground ball to the pitcher. Davis moves to second base, one away now, and here's Jiggs Donahue with a chance to make something happen. I just said the White Sox don't have any power. Donahue apparently does. The 61, that's a double. That scores the runner. 1-1 now the game. And just like that, the White Sox are back into this. Only 6 hits overall in this game, and we've had some fireworks already. And Lee Tannehill says it's my turn, and Tannehill gets a double on his own, double of his own, and Wild Bill Donovan living up to his name. 3 walks today, and can't seem to get the outs that he needs to. 2 away now as he gets Sullivan to fly out to right field, and here comes Frank Smith, the pitcher. And Smith gets a little ground ball to second base. That does that. Ty Cobb up now, 2-1, apologies, White Sox. Cobb gets a little ground ball to shortstop, and that does it for him, 1 away. Rossman now, a little grounder to the pitcher, 2 away, and the Tigers are going very quickly here, and there's a ground ball by Coughlin to short, and it is time for the bottom of the 7th inning. Fielder Jones up next, fly ball to left field, and that's 1 gone. Pop fly there by Ed Hahn, 2 away, bottom of the 7th inning. White Sox 2, Tigers 1 as Patsy Dougherty comes up, and we have more power coming from the middle of this lineup. Triple by Dougherty as he goes double columns, and that brings up George Davis. And I've got to be looking down here at my score sheet and scratching my head about Wild Bill. I knew that Wild Bill was occasionally would have problems. He gets out of this inning with a fly ball by George Davis to left field, but boy, oh boy, this is not sort of what I was expecting from the Detroit Tiger pitcher here in the early part of the season. Bosch Schmidt up now, hits a ground ball to shortstop. That's 1 gone. Up next, Red Downs, and he strikes out. And here comes Wild Bill. We're going to keep him in this ball game. Only 5 hits given up by him so far today, and I think that those walks will really hurt him. And it's a ground ball to shortstop. He does not reward me for my patience, unfortunately. You see that the White Sox have had 8 runners left on base despite only having 5 hits. Tigers giving up 2 errors, and Quite a number of walks here, 3 walks by Donovan. Freddie Parent now, and that is a fly ball to center field in the end. Jiggs Donahue now with 1 gone. Donahue gets the single to left center field, and that's because of Donovan's a relatively low grade, not quite as high as Smith's grade. And Tannehill now with a chance to do something. We're going to bunt. Donahue's slow. We'll bunt. Well, that 12 is probably not a good sign for us, but it's changed into an error. The pitcher fumbles the bunt. Wild Bill Donovan makes the third error rather of the game for the Tigers, and Chicago has something going. And here comes Billy Sullivan now, 1 out and runners on first and second. And this is going to be a fly ball, looks like. Fly ball a bunt, a little bunt to first base, first to second on the put out. Runners move up. And here comes Frank Smith, who can help his own cause here if he gets something going. And there's a pass ball. You got to put the blame on Donovan here. I mean, we probably should be blaming Schmidt on this one, but that's a scorer's decision. And Smith now ends up grounding out to third base, and that does that. 3 more outs remaining for the Tigers, but they have the top of the order coming up. Matty McIntyre, and there's a little foul ball. And we'll do this one again. McIntyre ends up with a single, and then as Germany's Schaefer comes up on the first pitch, McIntyre steals second. Runner on second base now. 3-1 ball game. Schaefer up to bat, and we are swinging away. There's no need to bunt McIntyre because he doesn't represent anything at second base right now. Schaefer rolls the same thing, rolls in 11, and McIntyre is thrown out at home. The reason why he's thrown out at home is because McIntyre does not have the F rating. He just has a normal rating. I bet this is new if you're an APA veteran. And Schaefer then steals second base for the next when Crawford gets up there on the first pitch. 1 strike now on Crawford with Cobb waiting on deck. Boy, you want Cobb to come up there with a chance to tie this game, don't you? Crawford hits a single to center field. Another runner is thrown out at home as Schaefer's thrown out at home, this time by the center fielder Jones. Crawford moves to second on the throw. 2 runners thrown out of the plate here in the top of the 9th inning for the Tigers. My goodness, this is exciting. This is one of the best games I think I've played so far in this replay. And here comes Ty Cobb. And Ty Cobb manages to get on base on an error charge to Hahn there in right field. And so now Cobb, the runner on first, 2 outs, top of the 9th inning, 3-2 White Sox. Claude Rossman is up, and we'll see if the Tigers' luck continues. And nope, that's a little ground ball to second base, and Davis makes the quick play over to Parent, and that does it. Final score today, White Sox 3, Tigers 2. And boy, I sure hope that you enjoyed that one. I really enjoyed that a lot. This is a really fun game. If you haven't played NP3 yet, you really need to, especially if you have any sort of background in APA. It's not what you expect. It's a lot of fun. Keeps you on your toes. If you like that, hit the like button. Subscribe for more. We have a video coming out every day. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and I will see you tomorrow.